This video is a lesson overview for lesson 7.2, which is about estimating the population mean. These slides are based on slides provided by Pearson to accompany our text and then were modified by me for our course. This lesson 7.2 is based on the second section of chapter 7, estimating parameters and determining sample sizes, from Essentials of Statistics 6th edition by Mario Triola. So we are choosing to study two of the sections in this textbook. In 7.1, we learned how to estimate that population proportion with both a point estimate and a confidence interval. In 7.2, we're going to do pretty much the same thing, but now we're going to focus on estimating that population mean. So here are our key concepts. So this section is about using sample data to make inferences about a population mean. We're going to estimate the mean in two ways. First, with a point estimate. I will tell you later, and I'll tell you now, I guess, as well, that the sample mean x bar is the best point estimate for the population mean mu. Later, I will explain why it's the best point estimate for the population mean mu, and we'll review how to compute x bar. Then we will estimate the population mean with a confidence interval. We'll do this in two cases: when the population standard deviation is unknown, that's the more common case, and then in the very rare case when the population standard deviation is known. And then lastly, we'll learn how to find the sample size necessary to estimate a population mean with a desired margin of error at a desired level of confidence when the standard deviation of the population is known. It's very important that we're able to do that, because if we know what kind of error we're able to tolerate, and we know how confident we want to be about that confidence interval, it's really important that we know how much data we need to collect in order to get that margin of error that we want, and have that confidence interval that includes the true value of the population mean with that desired level of confidence. So here are our learning outcomes. In order to get us ready to find the confidence interval for the population mean, we're going to talk about the characteristics of the student t distribution, or you can think of them as student t distributions, because they change. The shape changes slightly as the population, or excuse me, as the sample size changes. And then after we study the characteristics, or describe the characteristics of the student t distribution, we'll learn to find a critical value t sub alpha over 2 corresponding to a given confidence interval. And once we have that skill under our belt, we will be ready to estimate the population mean with both a point estimate and a confidence interval. First, we'll explain why that sample mean is the best point estimate of the population mean. And then we will interpret and find confidence intervals for the population mean in the very common situation when that population standard deviation is not known. Then in our third learning outcome, you will learn to find a margin of error and a point estimate x bar for the population mean if you're given a confidence interval. And then in our fourth learning outcome, we'll learn to find the sample size necessary to estimate a population mean to a desired degree of accuracy at a desired level of confidence when the population standard deviation is known or can be estimated. And then finally, we will find and interpret a confidence interval for the population mean in the very uncommon situation when the population standard deviation is known. It's very similar to what we do when the population standard deviation is unknown. There's just a couple of little changes that we need to make. Okay, that's the plan for 7.2. I will see you in the first video to talk about the student t distribution.